Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing great out there this morning, having a great start to your day and feeling well, feeling fantastic, and just kicking this morning's butt out there. Got you a big update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today and try to figure out today will kind of be the last day of this winter storm we've been dealing with over the northern portions of the country over the last few days. So, today we'll have one last push of frozen precipitation for certain areas. It's pushing through areas like Minneapolis right now, and this will deliver another round of moderate to heavy snow for you guys. I'll be interested to see what the final totals are around, for example, the Minneapolis area that at one point was predicting 19 to 25 inches of snow. I got a feeling you guys are probably not going to see that much snow, but very interesting to see what y'all's final tallies will be. But let me know what you're seeing out there. Certainly interested. And this last round will also move into areas of the interior Northeast. And then after we get past this, which will pretty much be past it as we get about 24 hours from now, it'll be just a past story by then. We'll begin to focus in on what's going to happen next week, which we will do all weekend long into obviously next week. I'm thinking we're going to have severe weather, and we could have a significant winter storm, potential significant winter storm across portions of the eastern U.S., maybe the Northeast. Models have done nothing but double down on that idea overnight, but in the grand scheme of things, we still got to work our way all the way to the last day of February, which isn't too far off, but still 5-6 days out. So we'll try to figure it out. We'll give you some updated information in this video. And again, we'll get very detailed for you guys tonight, and we can focus solely in on that. If you folks have not subscribed, as always, consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Very close to 30 members that have joined my channel, which is phenomenal. Consider the fact that I don't, offer really anything, no coffee cups, no clothing or anything like that. That is something I would like to do in the future. I don't want to blast Mitch West weather on everything. I know some people mention, hey, we'll just buy it just to support you, and that means the world. But to me, it's always kind of felt weird making shirts that say Mitch West weather. I don't know. But for people who do it, that's awesome, promoting your product and just people supporting you. But it's something I might do here in the future. I got a couple slogans I use on social media that I might make into a shirt here in the future. But there's certain things I would love to plan to do. But we'll get there when we get there. But if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below so I can pray over them and so others can do so too. So let's get rolling. Water vapor loop out here. You see this little spin barely on your screen? That's that little last push that we got of moisture that is working its way into some cold air up here. So this is delivering a last round of frozen precipitation for areas of Minnesota and Wisconsin, the UP and Michigan. And eventually it'll trail all the way over here very quickly across southeast Canada and bring some freezing rain, some more snow from Maine. And then that's all she wrote. We'll be done with it. And then all eyes will focus in out here, out west. So we look at watches, warnings, blizzard warnings still continue, but they will gradually be dropped throughout the later morning hours into this afternoon. And these winter storm warnings also in the pink, blizzard warnings in the red. Winter storm warnings continue for the northern country, the Northeast, northern New York State, basically the northern 2/3 of Vermont and New Hampshire, and areas of southern Maine still have winter storm warnings. And we still got winter weather advisories up for areas basically almost the entire state of Mass and the northern sections of Rhode Island, Connecticut, and certain sections of central New York State. So that's what's going on right now. Got some dense fog in areas of the northern Ohio Valley, especially. You guys are going to warm up. The folks that got hit by the ice storm in like southern sections of Michigan, you guys I think some areas are going to warm up into the 40s today. So rapid melting will happen as the ridge, which is flexing down here, really begins to nudge north and will bring warmer temperatures to the actual surface that will get above freezing. So that's good news. Nose is itching, about to sneeze. I think we're good. Okay, bypassed it. The southeast today, though, we'll break down the other regions too. There is an area of kind of showers and some downpours. Not really a severe risk of this today, but I would not be surprised to hear a rumble of thunder. Almost like I wouldn't say a tropical downpour, but almost like a late spring, early summer kind of downpour where you do have warm temperatures, some juice of the atmosphere out here. These kind of showers, heavier downpours, maybe a storm or two will drift into areas of eastern Tennessee throughout the morning hours, same thing into North Alabama, and then they'll kind of sag southeast or eastward and then make their way into North Georgia a little bit later this morning to early this afternoon. maybe in and around the Birmingham points east could see some storm activity. These will cross the southern Appalachian Mountains, make their way into the upstate of South Carolina, Piedmont, North Carolina a little bit later this afternoon. Atlanta, you might be dealing around dinner time with some isolated downpours. These will eventually try to survive, make it all the way to the evening hours into Charlotte, maybe down to Columbia. So, you might get something that if you're starting to see that thin layer of pollen out there, which I think the pollen count will be very high today, just with temperatures that are going to break records in the southeast today. Maybe these showers and storms could certainly help in a way. It's almost like an April kind of pattern out there, pretty wild to see. But these will drift through, and then I think more moisture will increase as we get into tomorrow morning. You'll see more widespread showers developing here in the Mississippi Valley as we're waking up tomorrow morning. Up here in the Northeast, this first round is pushing out, but it's going to snow throughout the morning. Some freezing rain. The purple's the sleet on tropical tidbits here. Freezing rain kind of drifted into western Mass where you guys could get some appreciable additional ice totals today. Certainly possible. Another 10th, 15th of an inch of ice. And we'll stay all snow up here in the northern sections of the Northeast, interior Northeast, higher elevations. But, this will continue. We're getting to about midday, early afternoon. Light to moderate snow still drifting through Maine, the down east areas of Maine, southern Maine. And then there might be a little break later this afternoon. And then another push. Another low pressure will kind of fly through, but this will be even further north. So there'll be a warm nose in place. I mean, it's going to be all freezing rain more than likely, even for some of these higher elevations up here in New York State, northern upstate New York State, southern sections of Vermont, New Hampshire. The southern half of the state will probably just be a frozen mixture of precipitation. Northern half, I think you'll mainly stay snow, but this could be a last push of maybe a few to several inches of snow for Maine. Basically, the entire state of Maine later overnight tonight gets into some more snow, but more freezing rain down here in Mass. The sleet, there'll be just a sleet freezing rain mixture. So you guys are going to pick up additional ice totals in western Mass, central Mass, down here, even just north of Boston. You guys are reporting a little bit of freezing rain just north of Boston this morning. So this will continue. It might switch to a period of freezing rain sleet around midnight tonight around Boston. And then eventually the precipitation will head on out for southern New England, but it will continue throughout the overnight hours and the morning hours for most of Maine. But by the time you're getting into about mid-morning tomorrow, we're done with this system. It's old news and it's on out of here. But additional snow, I'm going to use the blend of all models because the National Weather Service starts it off with too much snow. It's not an error on the model part. It's just the way it outputs on these weather sites. So blend of all models, I think, is going to show a better job here anyways, just in my opinion for this setup. But an additional, over the rest of the life of this storm, basically the northern 2/3 of Vermont and New Hampshire, this area right up here of northern New York State, probably 3 to 5 inches of snow up here, maybe 4 to 6, 7, 8 inches of snow. These higher elevations, of course, could maybe get as much as another 10 inches of snow. But, basically from northern Maine to southern Maine, an additional anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of snow, just depending on where you are. But this is everybody in Maine. So you guys are going to get, throughout the next 24 hours, maybe some areas could get another half a foot of snow added on to what you've already seen. Watch out for ice totals today, guys. The blend of all models wants to say, hey, you guys could potentially get another 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of ice widespread from areas of New York State to really western Mass is what I'm watching, southern Vermont. These areas right here could get another solid glaze of ice. 2/10 of an inch of ice. When you start to get to that 2/10 of an inch of ice, that's when you start to get into that danger zone. Trees really begin to sag. So we'll see what happens with this. But certain areas will have an all-out ice storm today. By the time it's kind of said and done. For you folks wondering in southern New England, hey, when are we going to get into a real winter storm, classic southern New England storm? Well, something could be brewing early next week, and we'll talk about that in the last part of the video. Sorry, guys, my nose is just a little stopped up this morning, probably the pollen. But out here in the south central U.S., quiet. Enjoy it because this is the same area that could potentially get active early next week. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, points west. Oof, it could get pretty kind of nasty out here. So, but between now and the next 24 hours, some showers might develop here in northeast Texas, northern Louisiana. as you're waking up tomorrow morning. Southern Arkansas and basically the entire Mississippi Valley from Memphis to Jackson, Mississippi. Waking up tomorrow with some showery conditions for your Friday morning. But, nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy at all. And probably will help wash out some of this pollen. But the north central U.S., what's left of this? In fact, we'll look at the radar out of Minneapolis right now. This is kind of blasting through the city very quickly. So moderate to heavy snow is falling. I would say this is probably more so heavier snow. This will deliver 1 to 2 inch per hour rates. As what you're getting right now in Minneapolis is probably snowing pretty heavily right now. And this is probably more so a heavy, wet snow than what you had at the first round of snow that happened over the last couple of days. So snowing pretty good. You're going to pick up an additional maybe several inches of snow. But this will move on out by the time you're getting into later this morning. Heavy snow begins to move out of Minnesota. It'll probably be moving out here in the next 2 to 3 hours, honestly. But this heavy snow has already moved into Wisconsin, but it'll continue to move throughout the northern portion of Wisconsin. Heavy snow. And then it'll eventually, later this morning, move into the UP of Michigan. Will deliver another round of accumulating snow for you guys. And then, it's wrapping up for Minnesota, Wisconsin, and then it heads off into southeast Canada. We'll eventually hit the northeast, which is what we just talked about. And then these lake effect snow bands will start popping off the southern shores of Lake Superior. Might deliver an additional coating of snow. Won't be that big of a deal. And we get into Friday morning. Maybe a round of snow developing here in Nebraska that might eventually drift into the Omaha area. There's another little weak system between the system we're dealing with right now and maybe the bigger one next week that could fly throughout this weekend. We'll talk about that tonight. Snowfall, it's accumulating right now, but you could get another 3-4 inches in Minneapolis. Same thing for the rest of Minnesota. Most of this is trailing out of the Dakotas right now. So some of these totals you see in the eastern Dakotas has already really fell. You go into the upper Midwest. But you could get an additional, in northern Wisconsin, 4 to 6 inches of snow, the UP of Michigan. Throughout the rest of the duration of this event, probably another 8 to 12 inches of snow, especially just around the central to western areas of the UP of Michigan. Eastern areas, probably more so 4 to 6 inches. Additional few inches of snow is definitely possible for you folks in northern Michigan. Some ice is certainly possible with this, just another glaze is possible today, but not much additional ice accumulations for these areas. So, temperatures today record-breaking for a lot of people. Cold air surges in, though, behind this, but it's not really going to mess with the southeast much. The southeast ridge is going to overcome this, but like I said, here in southern areas of Michigan, guys, it's going to warm into the 30s, in the upper 30s, maybe some 40s in certain areas, so you're going to get some melting with some of this ice. Even up until Milwaukee, it could warm just above freezing today. You'll get some melting. But look at the southeast ridge just dominating the pattern. You'll get well into the 70s as far north as southern Pennsylvania, 70s into Ohio Valley, West Virginia, widespread 70s for Kentucky, 80s up into Tennessee, widespread 80s in the Carolinas, Georgia, probably some low 90s in Florida. There was a point, I think this past weekend, where we were thinking some areas could get close to 90, even into the Carolinas. I don't know if it's going to do that, and I think it's just going to be due to the cloud cover. But man, somebody might, get higher than what they're forecast. But what's interesting, guys, is this is the predicted high temperatures in the National Weather Service today. You got 90s off the coastline where you don't have the sea breeze into the inland areas of the peninsula of Florida. Okay, Orlando will probably hit 90 degrees a day. So these are predicted high temperatures, right? Okay, 80s all the way up to Raleigh. It's probably gonna hit 80 in Washington D.C. today. It's pretty wild to think about. But you look at the daily record for today, high temperatures. Many record highs will be broke, guys. Columbia will probably tie it. Charlotte will probably break it. Raleigh will probably break the record high. It'll get very close to Washington, D.C. Record highs will be broken in Ohio Valley today, Kentucky. A lot of record highs are going to be broke today. It's pretty wild to think about, but we'll see what happens here. But I'm telling you, man, it's pretty wild to think about that we're dealing with such warm temperatures in this area of the country. But moving forward, guys, man, my allergies is like kicking in the middle of this video. Moving forward here, 30% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in a given location has shifted east. That is enhanced risk, like I mentioned last night, enhanced risk at day 4. So this was way over here in last night's video. It has shifted further east and even southeast. Now Oklahoma City, Wichita Falls, even Tulsa, Wichita, Kansas, firmly in this enhanced risk now. But one thing, I was reading the discussion this morning, and it says there's going to be only somewhat of a brief period of supercell development, and it says it's quickly going to turn to a linear threat. That's good news and bad news. Bad news because I really think this linear threat is going to be a major, maybe not a major, we don't know yet, but a pretty significant damaging wind threat. The good news with it is typically when these supercells transition to a linear threat very quickly, the tornado threat can drop. So when you have more supercells, you have a higher tornado threat. Supercells are rotating thunderstorms. So if we only have a very small period of supercell development, that means we'll only have a somewhat small period of very high-end tornado potential. So we'll see how this happens. But for right now, that's what they're thinking. But this could change, and typically it does as we get into these short-range models. As of right now, there is no day 5 15% risk, but would not be surprised if this does pop up somewhere into here. But there's going to be a lot of strong winds with this, with a negatively tilted trough. And we'll get detailed on this tonight. But one thing I'll mention, guys, is we'll show the GFS and the Euro. We'll show the Euro right here. The same system that's going to create a lot of severe weather down here. Here comes this low pressure deepening very quickly. It's a sub 990 millibar low pressure. This sweeps across the middle of the country. Girls, no fighting. This sweeps across the middle of the country, becomes a sub 980 millibar low pressure, sweeping across Missouri, getting into the Ohio Valley as we're getting into Wednesday morning. This is probably going to create a lot of strong winds across the Ohio Valley, the Mid-South. And watch what this does. A secondary low develops right here. You got enough cold air transfer into this area. And this turns into, let's go on and just switch it to the northeast. This turns into a significant winter storm for the Northeast, and not just the interior Northeast, also for the I-95 corridor too. The latest Euro now has snow into New York City, Long Island, all the way up to Boston, not as far south enough for areas of Washington, D.C., for Baltimore or Philadelphia or anything like that, but it's getting kind of close. Certainly something we need to watch, but we get into southern New England, heavy snow moving into the area. But, I mean, this is, if you're wondering what time frame we're at, we're, around the morning of the last day of February 28th. And this is working its way through. This is a pretty significant snowstorm. Not just for the interior Northeast, like I said, but this is pretty significant for southern New England, all the way down to the coastline, okay? So you keep this moving, it just goes and goes and goes for a 24 to 36 hour period. I mean, you get into Wednesday morning, the morning of March 1st, it's still snowing in Boston. It actually tries to amplify here. And, and then another system tries to fly in, but this looks to be all rain. But it's pretty wild to think about. You compare this also with the GFS, and the GFS has trended colder also. This moves in. This is for, I would say, Monday evening. You got snow, a major winter storm moving into the Northeast. Ice showing up in Pennsylvania, the orange is sleet. But this shows a significant winter storm from New York City, central New Jersey, Binghamton, all the way to southern New England, all the way up to Maine. And, the GFS is cold too, shows snow for everybody. So this could be your first significant winter storm for like the Boston area, the southern New England, where you guys have just always had a mixture of stuff, where you all have just stayed rain for certain areas. You could end February with a bang. Meteorological winter could end with a bang, and then you get into the meteorological spring, which is March 1st. But this is a significant event too. It takes us all the way through a 24 to 36 hour period of snow. So this is what could fall. This is signifying the system for today. But if you keep it going all the way through the 1st of March, I mean, this is a solid signal that, hey, it's basically saying, hey, winter's not over. You got a 10-inch snowfall mean in Boston, even a few-inch snowfall mean in New York City. But this is a solid signal for more snow for the interior Northeast, but not just for the interior Northeast, guys. I really think that other people are going to get into this too. So Solid signal in the GFS ensemble also. So winter's not over up here in the Northeast. For a lot of people who are just saying, winter's over. I guess we're just not going to get anything. It's not. And you never know. The GFS has an interesting scenario where it shows more snow further south. So we got to watch this, guys. That's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all, and have yourselves a great Thursday.